Top 5 questions of the week as we head into week 5. Want to get both you guys' opinions on some of these. Eventually, we probably did next, when you do the next Texas Beef House Live, we need to throw some of that Blackmar video up so they can see.
Do you have that, Garrett? Yeah, I mean, for later, after this segment?
Yeah, I still have it now.
Yeah, I still like to show it. Okay.
But yeah, I think we need to show that at him, an artist at work.
Make everybody hungry.
I mean, do you often, how many people walked into Picasso while he was painting, whatever that was?
If they weren't shot first, yeah.
I mean, 1922 Paris, things are going well. He's just out there painting. Number 5, can Wazzu stay in the race all year long? I thought that they would be, and they might still be, but after beating Wisconsin in that big moment and then raising to the challenge and beating Oregon State in the big moment and holding off a ferocious comeback, there might be something special about this team that's not just Cam Ward. They are really good. They're tough. They're fun to watch. Jake Dykert has got them rolling, and Cam Ward clearly spent the summer trying to fix all the things that were slowing him down, because he was fun to watch last year and good, but so far this year he's been great.
Yeah, he's been prolific. He won the Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award Player of the Week this week, deservedly so. And I don't see any reason why not. I don't think there's any glaring issue that should prevent them from being able to run the rest of this race. I think the way the schedule sets up is absolutely favorable as all get out for them. I mean, you play, don't get me wrong, UCLA coming up this weekend, that could be a bump right there, although Dante Moore did not look nearly as good last week as maybe some of the flashes that he has shown, but he's a young quarterback, and that's going to be part of the deal there. But UCLA on the road is a potential pit, but you got Oregon in a couple of weeks, and beyond that they've got all unranked teams until the very last game against Washington. So if you can get through get through UCLA, you've got Arizona remaining, Arizona State, Stanford, Cal, and then Colorado, who knows by then. But, I mean, compared to what you could draw, like we had USC's schedule, there's 5 ranked teams left. They don't play USC. They don't play Utah. They don't play every murderer in the murderer's row. So you do get a couple of them, Oregon and Washington, but they're separated enough that there's a bunch of winnable games remaining for them.
And Washington could be the last Apple Cup for however long, right?
Yeah.
So there's going to be some
big
sauce.
Stakes. Yeah.
There's going to be some sauce on that game.
That could be a top 10 game for all we know at that point if they keep winning. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, if Washington is, by the way, undefeated going into that game with the last 3 that they have before that, watch out.
Yeah,
team.
That would be a great college game day, although I don't know the same date if there's the rivalry week, so to speak, that we talked about.
Get up there. Go to Seattle. Have a big time.
I mean, I think if you're saying who are the 4 most impressive teams, Washington's definitely one of those 4 right now. Yeah. I think them, Texas,
Florida State.
Sure. Georgia, although they just haven't been spotlighted.
They haven't played. They haven't been challenged yet.
We knew this was the schedule. They were supposed to play Oklahoma. They played South Carolina. That was fine.
They were pushed by South Carolina. I mean, but they responded.
Okay. You know what we're trying to say here. They haven't been taken, we haven't had to turn it all the way up with them just yet. You just assume that they're one of the best teams, and probably rightfully so. But just saying, if you're looking at the 4 who have looked the part, Washington's definitely in that 4.
Yeah. All right, number 4. Craig, this is a direct question for you. Is Oklahoma now a defense-first team?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think so? Yeah. I because when you've got you can win a game 28-11, which last year, if they had only scored 28 points in a game, that was a huge toss-up whether they would have won that game because of how bad their defense was playing. And then you throw that into a 20-6, that's a gritty win for them.
Yeah, no, their defense has been really good. It's clearly much improved from a year ago and from the Riley teams. Danny Stutzman's become an absolute stud for them. And I know there's a lot of moaning and groaning over some of his mistakes last year, as can happen. But I don't see a lot of that going on now. They're definitely a much better defensive team than I thought that they would be, the first month of the season. I thought that they would get – you got a defensive coach. You need to be a defensive team. That's kind of why with Aranda, it's if the defense isn't working, then what are we supposed to grab onto here? But no, they're becoming, more in the vein of their head coach, which is defensive-minded. Their offense is still explosive. But they don't have a great run game right now, or even a good run game. That's the big bugaboo for them, is their run game at the moment. And they've got some players that you can see are going to be potential stars and pass catchers and things like that. But no, I think the defense is the one that's taking the headlines right now. They can still be explosive offensively, but it's not like the Riley level of like, here's CeeDee Lamb and here's all these guys. They've got some good players, but defensively, that's been the star of the show at this point. Yeah.
Number 3. Who is the best team in the SEC West? And I'll pose this one to Garrett first. Who is the best team? Who is one that would legitimately scare you right now?
Man, Ole Miss scares me this weekend as an LSU fan, honestly, because that's a toss-up game between both of them.
Yeah, but as far as
nobody
who can strike fear in the hearts of everybody on the schedule in the SEC West, really, look, LSU took the first loss, and I think they're probably the best team in it right now. But they, struggle against Arkansas, which is a huge rivalry game. They've looked kind of uneven at times, and they haven't really found themselves. And then Alabama's well documented as to, kind of what's going on there with their offense and where they might be in this part of the Saban era. So, yeah, I mean, A&M's not all that scary. I mean, they're probably fine, but they're not. Nobody's going to be like, oh, dear God, we got to play A&M this week. Auburn, we've seen that. Ole Miss really, really squandered an opportunity this week. So, I don't know.
It's early.
Yeah.
And usually this is like last year at this time, there were still questions about LSU, and how they finished was a coach that took over. And Saban is not a guy that's just going to forget football. They improved a little bit last week. They still have much to deal with. The defense created some turnovers. And so can they build off of that? But, yeah, A&M's good. They're good enough. They're a bowl team. They do need a signature win, and maybe they'll get that when that opportunity. I think Alabama plays in College Station.
Yes, next week.
And God knows that. I mean, the last couple of years or the last couple of times they've played, that's been a hell of a game.
Yeah, I want to go back because, Sooners fans can be a little whoop, whoop. I do think they have some potential star wide receivers, but it's just not name brand to the level of what you're expecting there, just so we avoid the chat replay and the
God, I got that yesterday in the show.
Yeah, but the running game, that's still an issue, and that's not debatable. I think this is a 3-team question, right? It's LSU, Bama, or A&M.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't know. I don't know right now who the better team is. I'd lean, I guess, Bama, just giving them the benefit of the doubt, but I don't know now that I even say that doesn't sound right, because I think of, they don't have the best quarterback in the grouping. So I don't know. I think we need to see more evidence between these 3 teams we're going to see at the end, but I still need to see a little bit more from all 3 to make a determination on who's the best of the 3.
And I'll say this, they don't have a team that's terrifying like they have in the past.
No.
Where sometimes they've had 2 or 3 at the same time where you're like, even like Alabama, Ole Miss, LSU all in the same year. You're like, look, I know that Ole Miss is the 3rd, but I sure as hell don't want to play them.
Right.
Like, I don't think they have that right now. They're not intimidating in the way that they're used to being.
I'll tell you what I saw from Alabama is I saw a team that created turnovers. Now, again, Ole Miss's offense is usually pretty productive, but I did see some plays from Alabama that I didn't see at all against Texas, and probably because it was Texas at the time. But I did see some disruption. And I think that you can discuss the quarterback play being erratic and sporadic and whatever. But to me, what was stunning about the game with Texas was the defense didn't make plays.
Yeah.
And I saw them do that when they played Ole Miss. Not as much firepower as UT, but I saw some of those plays you expect to see from Alabama's defense.
Yeah, I think that's how they're going to win games. It's going to be winning with defense, getting turnovers, making big plays on that side, and then controlling the football. It's not going to be, in the occasional explosive from Milroe, but it's not going to be the greatest show on turf with Amari Cooper running free and like 5 stars everywhere. That's just not who they are anymore. They don't have the big NFL, as of right now, top 5 quarterback pick or first rounder. They don't have a lot of those stacked up like they have in past years where it's like half an NFL roster. Now, it may turn into that in a couple of years, but right now it's just not as formidable as it has been. So, yeah, they're going to play good defense, and they're going to win more low-scoring games, and they're going to win, shootouts.
Yep. Number 2, can Penn State and the Michigan-Ohio State hold on the Big Ten? Because what they did to Iowa, and look, I know it's Iowa, and the joke is kind of over about their offense. I mean, it's even beyond that now. It's tragic. You called it malpractice, Craig. I think that's true, but to shut out a team like Iowa and hold them to 61 yards of offense while still having an offensive performance like that, being dominant in all phases of the game, kind of shows me that James Franklin might finally have a team that can contend all the way late in the year. He's had really good teams, but he's not had a great one. He might be in it right now. He might be in his bag, so to speak.
Well, you need to be with Michigan and Ohio State as part of your problem. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ohio State obviously has some weaknesses. They have some holes in their game. Michigan, I think, is a very good team, solid team. But, is Penn State in the mix? Absolutely they are. And you knew when they were kind of building up Drew Aller that there was always just kind of this little buzz about that guy and how good he actually was going to end up being. And I think you're already starting to see that pretty quickly as he's taken over the reins. But, yeah, they've been downright, dominant up until this point. Biggest game still remaining, and we're not going to see them have another one for a while. They don't play let's see, when's their next, Ohio State in 3 Ohio State in 3 weeks. They play Northwestern this weekend, which that should not be an issue. They play UMass, and then they get to play Ohio State. So, that's going to be a big-time showdown. But you'd think that they could very well be favored there, and that leaves you with really just the Michigan game remaining because Michigan State's down. Everybody else is below you on paper and on the eye test at this point. So, you've got those two games coming up, and those are – that little round robin is going to probably dictate who emerges from this, but they absolutely have a shot to be the one on top.
Yep. And number one, we did discuss this a little bit, but how wild is the Pac-12 going to get? Because if you really look at it and the way that these things intersect, I think this is going to be the craziest season in their history. And not even close. Like, they'll be able to look back to the last one, and then somebody will say, well, what other season compares to this? And they'll be like, no, nothing compares to this. This is the freaking White Album. Let's, that's what it is.
Yeah, unless they eat each other up, and they have, everybody has a couple of losses, and everyone, and then you always throw in one of those clunkers. So I'm happy for them, the conference, who has had the hellacious last couple of years. And there were times when the Pac-12 After Dark was the only game on, and I wouldn't, even then I was like, okay. But I just can't wait to see results. And we saw one with Oregon and Colorado, and now we saw Utah and UCLA, and we'll look for more. It's going to be a great conference week in and week out.
Yeah, they're going to beat up on each other. And going back to what you said about the malpractice, Paul, I think that the most impressive thing about Penn State is, not obviously holding Iowa to 0 points, but it's being able to put 31 up on that defense. That's just not a lot of teams do that against that team. So they are for real. But, the Pac-12 is as wild as you can imagine. It feels like, it's been wild so far, and now we're going to actually get those teams crossing over even more every single week. So, it's going to be awesome to see who emerges, if anybody can, unscathed or relatively unscathed, because you could wind up with a bunch of 2-loss teams at the top of the standings. Yeah, so, that's what it's shaping up to be, and if somebody does get out on the other side and only has 1 loss, then that's going to be a pretty good football team that's going to the college football playoff.
When you have those kind of quarterbacks, those specific quarterbacks, 5-6 deep or so, man, it's just going to be fun to see who's the one at the end.
Unlike their TV deal, this is actually living up to the hype.
Yeah. Let me throw this out.